Hello everyone, welcome back to this video. In our last video, we actually connected to our SQL Server. I showed you how to connect your SQL Server to Power BI desktop in order to get direct feed from your database. We identified KPIs which would be necessary for us to build our sales reports. We not only identified these KPIs, we also created some DAX measures to help us calculate these KPIs. And now in this video, we're going to be creating the reports as required by the regional sales manager for Starscape. So let's get to it. But before we proceed, I'm going to paint a quick scenario for you to actually consider. So imagine you are the sales manager for Starscape. It's Sunday evening and you are bracing yourself for the new week challenge. You are wondering how you're going to compute the total sales for the previous week. Of course, you made sales in the past week. You had customers walk into your store to place orders, customers bought products, but then you are wondering how much sales exactly was made. By how much did we grow? Did our sales grow compared to the previous week? Are there days when we had more sales compared to the others? How did the sales vary across different product categories? How did the sales vary across different days compared to the different week? Now you're faced with the challenge of how you're going to compute these sales. Previously, you had to put these numbers together manually, compute these numbers manually, but then it's becoming a very repetitive process, and sometimes you often miss out on some sales during the week. So now you have hired a data analyst to help you automate this report, create an automated report for you, which would provide you an overview with the insights you're actually looking for, so that it can help you make the decisions you need to make for the coming week. So probably you want to make decisions regarding to marketing, regarding to logistics, or whatever decisions you want to make that actually requires insights for the sales figure. So you have hired a data analyst to help you build this report so that you do not have to worry about computing the sales manually every week, or you do not have to wait for someone to compute sales for you. So now, as data analyst, putting yourself in the sales manager's shoes, what do you think the sales manager would actually be interested in seeing on his reports? So first of all, the sales manager would be interested in seeing the total sales. As the sales manager, you would want to see the total sales for the past week. You want to see how the total sales increased compared to the previous sales week. You want to know how many orders were received in the past week. You want to know how many customers walked into your store or place an order online. You want to know if your customers are just shopping small or whether they're actually making significant sales. So you want to know the average order value. You want to know how your different sales channel perform. You want to know how the different sales location, how different stores location perform, which stores are actually receiving more sales, which stores are receiving the least sales. You want to know which channel are you receiving? Do you make more sales via the website? Do you receive more orders from the website, or do you have more of your customers walking into the store to make orders? So keeping all of this in mind should actually help you build the kind of reports that would actually be meaningful to your report users, which is your stakeholders, the sales manager. So you would not just be creating a report based on vibes, you'll be creating a report that would actually be meaningful. And keeping all of this in mind, this would help you determine how you want to arrange your reports, how you want to place different charts strategically on your dashboard, on your report canvas, what the sales manager would be interested in seeing at a glance. So we're going to keep all of this in mind, and keeping everything in mind, we are going to create a Power BI report for the regional sales manager of Starscape. So now let's get to it. So first, we have created our KPI card in the last video. In the last video, I showed you how the KPI card was created, and then I've made some formatting. This is the KPI card. This is just the KPI card created using the new Power BI report, and then this is just a shape. This is just a rectangle shape that was added, for make it visually appealing, and then we just give it a color. Then I added a title for the report, which is our sales performance dashboard report. So this is quite easy to do, and then we're going to walk through creating the report. So the first thing we want to do is I'm going to add a line chart to this report, to the canvas. So this line chart, we're going to visualize the total sales for the week. And for this, we're going to check through our DAX measures. And in our DAX measures here, we're going to add our sales last week to our y-axis. And we're going to add our date. From the date table we created, we're going to add our weekly name because we want to see how the different sales varies over the week. If we're using a bar chart, you can see that on Friday we have the most sales for the current. We had the most sales on Friday, and then Sunday had the least sales for the previous sales week. But we're not going to use a bar chart. We're going to use a line chart. This is because we want to see the trends and we want to compare the total sales for the past week. We want to compare it with the previous week, but while also keeping the focus on the current week because we are more interested in seeing that. But I'm going to show you how to do that. We're changing this to a line chart. We're going to add our sales previous week to our y-axis. So now we have the sales, the current week sales and the previous week sales. We have the current week sales in blue and the previous week sales in green. But we don't want the focus to just be on the previous week sales. We want the focus to be on the current week sales so that it's easy to compare. And then if you want to actually see the previous week sales, then you can also still see it. So for this, we're going to do a little bit of formatting. You click on format visual. We're going to select lines, and then we want to format just the previous week sales. So instead of a solid line, we're going to use a dotted line. We're going to change this to, we're going to reduce the stroke width. So we're going to make this a dashed line, not a dotted line. So we're making this a dashed line, and then I want to change the color. So for this, I want this to be green and faint. And then I want my current pixels to be blue. For this, there is no hard rule in picking your colors, but for what you can use any color you actually want to use. You can use whatever color you actually think you like to use, but whatever color you're going to use, you will need to keep in mind data visualization principle. You need to keep in mind that whatever colors you actually want to use is highlighting, is drawing attention to a particular part of your report. You don't want your report to look cluttered, or you don't want it to be painted with several colors. So you also have to keep this in mind so that it doesn't get too overwhelming for the viewers of this report. So now we're going to do more custom formatting. So the next thing I want to do here is to rename the chart. And so I'm going to name it daily sales trend. So I'm going to get rid of the week name in my x-axis. I'm going to change the color, make it a bit brighter, and increase the font size. We're also going to do the same for the y-axis. We're going to get rid of, okay, we're going to start from 0. And then we're going to get rid of the title, increase the font size to make it clearer, and also change the font color. So for our legend, I want the legend to be at the top center, so it's easy to see. And also increase the font size. Okay, so this is ready. And the next chart we want to build now is we want to create a chart to show the distribution of the sales. So we're going to use, for this, we're going to be using the sales channel column in our orders table. We want to see the number of orders across the different channels. So we're going to use sales channel for our legend, and then we're going to use the orders last week. So this as well, I'm also going to format the legend. I'm going to get rid of the legend title, increase the text, and also make the color bolder. I'm also going to format the slices. So I want to change the color. As well as the data labels. So for the data labels, I want to just show the percentage of total. Okay. We're going to format the data labels to make it bolder, and also format the color so it's clearer. And the last thing we want to do is rename the title to orders by channel. So from this, we can see that we have close values for our both in-store and online channel. So we can see that we have, well, both channel receive orders. Although we have slightly more orders in store. We have the in-store orders have 51%, and then we have 48% of the total sales we ordered online. So this means that we have more customers walking into the store to make purchase compared to online customers. For the daily sales trend here, we can also see that the peak sales trend is on a Friday, but although compared to the previous week we had sales decline on a Friday and the sales peaked on Thursday, no, on Sunday rather. So we can see this. If you want to see it clearly, you can visualize this. But to make the trend really, really obvious and easy to spot at a glance, we'll be using a line chart instead. So the next thing we want to create is an overview. So as the sales manager, this is going to give you an overview at the first glance. When you open the reports, at the first glance you can see the total sales, you can see the total orders, you can see the daily sales trend, how did the sales move, and at a glance you can actually see which channel is actually bringing in the most orders. So the next thing we want to visualize is the sales breakdown across the different store outlets. So for this, we are going to use this store columns. So for this, we're not going to be using the store ID. We're going to be using the store location. to actually depict the stores. So the store IDs is just numbers, but when you have different outlets in the same country but in different location, you are more likely to refer to it as, oh, what stores did we have in the Ikeja branch? What stores did we have in the Abeokuta branch? What stores did we have? What sales value did we have in the Lekki branch? You are more likely to refer to the stores by their location rather than the store ID. So for this, we are also going to use the sales last week measure. We're also going to use the sales last week measure, and then we are going to format this, increase the value for the y-axis, increase the color. Okay. So you want to make sure that your font sizes are actually equal across. So this is our x-axis. Your font sizes and font colors are actually the same across your reports to make it visually appealing. So we're going to get rid of the title. The same for the y-axis. Okay, we have 0 as the minimum. So for the values, we're going to increase this to 13 as well. Change it to a bit more dark. Okay, it's 13. And then also get rid of the title. So for this also, we're going to rename this to sales by location. So here we can see that we had more sales in Lekki compared to the other stores. We have more sales in Lekki and Abuja compared to the previous week. We had the least sales in Ibadan compared to all other stores. And then the last visual we actually want to add to this channel, to this overview page, we want to add the top selling products. So at a glance, upon opening this dashboard, you can actually have a high level overview of the sales for the previous week. So we want to see the top selling sales categories. So for this, I'm also going to format the y-axis, change the color, and get rid of the title because it's not needed. We're getting rid of the title to make our report clean and less cluttered. You don't want a cluttered report. So for our y-axis, for our x-axis as well, we're going to get rid of the title, and we're just going to get rid of the x-axis altogether and we're going to use a data label. So for our data label, we're going to increase the font size and also so I want to create more room for this. Okay, so here we're going to rename this to top selling subcategories. So the name you give your visuals also matters as much as the insights you are trying to communicate. So here we're going to call this top selling subcategories. So you cannot just leave the title, the default title that you get from adding your visual. You have to make your chart, you have to make it very descriptive. So we're going to call this top selling subcategories. And here you can see the top selling subcategories. You can see that we have more shoe sales this week. We have more shoe sales than any other category. But then you also want to see, so this is the thing. Tarscape sells products in two different categories. They sell men's fashion, they also sell women's fashion. So at a glance, you actually want to see, okay, these are the top selling categories. But we have shoes in the men's category, we have shoes in the women's category. We have accessories in the men's category. We also have accessories in the women's category. So we want to see which categories are actually contributing the most to these sales across the different subcategories. And then we're going to add a category to the legend. So I'm going to format this quickly. So here you can see for the shoe sales, we have more sales for the women's category compared to the men's category. And then in the accessory sales, all of the accessory sales for this week are women accessories. So we're going to format the data labels. As you can see, we can barely see the data labels on blue. We can barely see the data labels on blue, so we're going to format this. So you click on series and select women, and then we're going to change this color to white, or not white. We're going to change this to a lighter shade of gray. So we're going to edit the legend, get rid of the title, and then position this. Again, your choice of designing your report is absolutely left to you. You can design this report anyhow you want to, but you actually have to keep your users in mind. What would they actually want to see at the top glance? So you have to use the hierarchy of viewing of display to actually present your insights. So for this, because we are actually identifying the top selling subcategories, we can see that we have more sales for shoes, we have more sales for dress. We are going to take this to the top five. So we want to see the top five most sold subcategory. So we're going to add a visual filter. So on this page, we want to filter the category down to the top five. So you click on basic filtering. So these are visual filters. We're going to click on basic filtering and change that to top end. When the top end, we're going to add the number of labels we want to see, the number of subcategories we want to see, and then you're going to add by what value you want to see it. So this is going to add sales last week and just click apply filters. Made a mistake. This is not supposed to be sub category. You're supposed to add the filter to subcategory. So we're just going to close this out and we're going to edit the subcategory, change this to top end. So I want to show the top category, top five by sales last week. Then you apply your filter. So now we see it's easier to focus on the top five. So these are the top five categories. We have more shoe sales, dress, men's suits, trousers, and jeans. I'm going to edit this a bit more. Okay. So we're going to edit the men's category and then change the color. We're going to make the color slightly darker so that it's really clear on the chart. Now we have this ready. We have this ready and we're just going to make adjust the alignments of the charts. Right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create the product page. We're going to duplicate this page. So this is what we want the product page to look like. We're going to be recreating this page. We're going to be recreating this page as well. We're going to add for the product page. So we have segmented this report into three different views. First, we have the overview page, and this overview page is going to create, is going to provide an overview of the entire report. So this is going to provide you with an overview of the entire report. You can see the daily sales trends, the orders by channel, the top selling subcategories, and the sales by location. So the next page we have segmented it into is also the product view page. And on the product view page here, we have the top selling subcategories. So we have chosen to visualize it separately. And I'm just going to show you how we did this. So we're going to visualize it separately because Southscape sells both women and men's products separately. So it makes sense to visualize the women's products separately and the men's products separately. So that at a glance, when the sales manager comes in, the sales manager can see that okay, the women's category, we have more shoe sales, and in we have more subcategories, more shoe sales in the women's subcategories, and these are the top selling products in women's category. In the men's category, these are our top selling subcategories in the men's products. At a glance, you can, so what we have chosen to visualize subcategories is so that at a glance, you can have an high level overview of which products are being sold. So at a glance, you can see that we sold more shoes, both for men and for women. We have more shoes generally for the two different categories. And then for the top selling products, we can now see, we can have it drill down to the different products that was actually sold. So before we proceed, just a few more things we want to do in this report. Just a few more things we want to do in this report. Okay, for this, we want to add interaction among the visuals. So by interaction, what I mean is this. So you can filter through the different categories. So this is when you click on Port Harcourt, you can filter through and see a breakdown of the top selling subcategories in Port Harcourt. You can see the top selling subcategories in Surulere. You can also see the daily sales trend for Port Harcourt. So this creating an interaction between the visuals, using the visuals to create a filter, it actually eliminates the need for an additional filter. So you can see that for Surulere, the past week, the average order value drops down by minus 8.98%. And this is what we did earlier when we actually created the sales color and the conditional formatting such that whenever the sales increase, we have green, and whenever it's reduced, we have red. So to do this, to create this interaction, here is what we are going to do. You click on the chart you want to use to filter the other visuals on your report, and then you select format. So on format, you click edit interactions, and then So currently, each of the charts on the dashboard, they are all cross highlighted. So you click on Surulere, and this is what, so we have cross filtering and cross highlighting. So if you click on Surulere, you can just see the breakdown, what portion of the total sales did Surulere, did choose occupy in Surulere. And also for the men, you only have an highlight of what it looks like when compared to the total sales. But what we want is we want to go through, and so for this icon here, you can see this signifies highlighting and this signifies filter. So we want to filter it, and so we're just going to click this. For the daily sales trend, so this is a filter. For this, because we have in-store and online, we don't want to filter this at all because this is just in-store versus online. So for the KPI cards, we also have they are also filtered, not highlighted. So we want to do the same thing for the other visuals on our chart. So for top category, we want to do it. Okay, let me just demonstrate this better. So if you click on Port Harcourt, you can see that it's filtering. We click on Ikeja, you can see the trend for Ikeja, daily sales trend. If you click on Lekki, you can see the daily sales trend for Lekki and the top selling products in Lekki as well. So we want to do the same for product categories. So we want to see the daily trend for shoes. And for this also, we're going to switch this to filter. We are also going to switch to filter because we want to know which channel, we want to know the distribution of the shoe sales by channel. So we want to know where most of our shoe sales are coming from, whether they are coming from our websites or whether they are coming from the different stores. So we have filtered this, and when you click on women, when you click on the women's category, you can see the breakdown. When you click on the men's category, you can also see the breakdown by stores. So you can see that Surulere had sold the least shoes for men. When you click on dress, you can also see the breakdown also. You can see how it is. You can see the differences. You can also see the daily trend and see the distribution by store. You can also see the total sales for dress, the total orders, number of customers, the average order value, and all of that. So for this also, we are also going to filter this because we want all of the tasks to interact with each other. So if you want to know what happened on Thursday, so on Thursday, when you click on Thursday, you can see that on Thursday, the total sales dropped on Thursday, number of orders dropped on Thursday, the total customers also dropped, but we still have a high average order value. Then you can also see the sales by the different stores. So on Thursday, we can see that Ibadan had the least sales on Thursday. And then you can see the sales breakdown by the top selling subcategories for Thursday and also the orders by channel for Thursday. So that is that on this. So you close out the edit interaction, and then we move to the next page. So we duplicated this page because we want to retain our formatting. We're just going to rename these products because here we want to see the sales breakdown products. For the sales breakdown by product, we're going to add a chart, a bar chart. I'm going to resize this, make it bolder, and bring it to the top here. And what do we want to visualize here? We want to visualize the top selling subcategories for women. Sales the previous week. Subcategories. So these are the subcategories for women. We're going to add a filter. We don't want this. So these are the typical subcategories. We want just for women. So we're going to add the category filter and just select women. So here also we're going to use the top subcategories. We're going to use this for women, and then we're just going to format this visual. So as usual, we're going to get rid of the title, increase the font size. And for our x-axis, we will get rid of the title before disabling the x-axis. If you disable the x-axis without getting rid of the title, you still have this. So we have to turn off the title and then delete the x-axis. So we're going to add data label, and then we're going to rename the title. And then we're going to signify that this is for women. So here we're just doing basic formatting. So these are just basic formatting. And we're going to just copy this visual and paste it. And for this, all we're going to just do for this is just to change the category to men. And the only thing we are doing here is just to rename this title to men. We're also going to paste the same charts. So we're going to use the red line. We're going to follow the red line just to keep our charts properly aligned. So for this, we want to see the products. We want to see the top selling products and the subcategories. And for this, we're just going to change the y-axis from subcategory to product. So for this, we want just the top 10. We don't want all of the product. We want to see the top selling product in the women's category. So we are going to filter this also top 10. By sales. So we're going to do a bit more formatting on this. We're going to format our y-axis. We're going to increase the mark width area. So here we can see because the names of each product names are really long, we're going to increase the mark area width. But although this is still not showing completely, if you hovering on each of these would actually show you the full names of the full product names. So the next thing we also want to do is we want to rename this so that the full slip is also descriptive. We want to provide more additional information. So you're not just seeing the total sales by subcategories. We are also going to be adding the total orders to toothpaste. So we're going to add orders last week, toothpaste. We're going to add number of customers to toothpaste. And then we're going to add okay, quantity. So when you hover over this, you can see that we have 3.25 million in total sales. We have just 10 orders. Just 10 orders give 3.25 billion, and then just 10 customers placed 58. Just 10 customers placed 58 quantities. So we're going to rename this so it's more descriptive. So renaming every part of your visual is actually a very vital part to creating your report. So you want to make this report as intuitive as your user as possible. You want to make it as intuitive as possible to your user. So the next thing we're going to do is, so here we can see the top selling subcategories for women, top selling products. So we need to rename this to top selling products. So here we can see the top selling products, but looking at these top selling products, so you cannot at a glance tell which ones are shoes or which ones are dresses. So you want to make this easy for your report users. You want to make this as easy as possible for your report users. And so we're going to add the top categories to the legend so that at a glance, you can see that in our top selling products for women, in our top selling women's products, we can see which ones are dresses, which ones are shoes. We want to see the composition, what are part of the product subcategories make up the women's products. And so for this, we're going to add the subcategory. We're going to add this, and then we would format the legend. So once these are the center, at the right to the center, and then the title, we're going to increase the text and give it the same font color. So we're going to edit the bars so it's easy to see. We're going to make shoes this and make dresses. So I'm going to edit this as well. Going to change the color. So at a glance, you can see that in our top selling women's products, we can see that we have more shoe sales than dresses. You can see the other subcategories did not make it to our top 10 products. We cannot see accessories, we can't see jeans. So the top 10 products are majorly dresses and shoes. So one more thing we want to add to this. One more thing we want to do here is we want to copy this and then we're going to paste it again and just replicate it for men. So we're going to edit the filter and change the category from women to men. And just close this. So we're going to edit this also. Change this to men. And the visual. So we want to separate the colors. So we're going to leave men's suit as blue, and then we're going to make men's shoes green. So let's make this a lighter shade of green. So again, at the top glance, you can see that the top 10 products for men are mostly suits and shoes. So the trousers and shirts did not make it to the top 10. So once you're done with this page, the next page you want to create is want to create the stores breakdown page. So we're going to create we're going to create our third dashboard, our third report, and then we name these stores. And for this, we're just going to do a few things. We're going to swap this out for a bar chart. For this, we're going to be creating our analysis for stores. We're going to create the store breakdown. So the first thing we want to visualize is we want to visualize total sales by stores. So we're going to add our stores or location. Then we're going to add total sales. So for this visual, we want to compare the total sales for each stores for the current week. We want to compare across all stores. We want to compare total sales for the current week. We want to compare it to the previous week. And to do this, we're going to add the sales previous week to this. So we're going to just rename this to make it more descriptive. We're going to name this week, and then we're going to name this previous week. We're going to use a clustered bar charts. Format this. Going to move the legend to the middle, top center. I'm just going to color this again. After this, the next visual we want to create is want to create a breakdown for stores by sales categories. We are going to change this. I'm going to change this to a bar chart, and we're going to remove this, and instead we're going to see a breakdown by categories. So the rationale behind this is so that when the sales manager comes to this report, the sales manager can see how the different stores performed compared to the previous week. So in Lekki, you can see the total sales. To change this. So you can see the total sales for the current week compared to the previous week. We can also see the total sales for Abuja compared to the previous week. We need to make one more change. So we need to add more space to the columns. So for this also, we're going to add data labels for this. Color. Going to for men, we're going to make this white. For women, we're going to make this. Going to make this black. So this is it for the total sales by stores. So at a glance, the sales manager can actually see the breakdown of the different categories by stores. And the one last chart we're going to be creating, the last chart we'll be creating for this report um is sales by we're going to be creating sales by subcategories and store and products. So we're going to add the subcategories. We're going to add the subcategories and our sales for the current week. We're just going to format this to make it readable. Just on the title. We're going to add some data labels. So one more thing we want to do for this, we want to add a drill through functionality. So this drill through functionality. So now we have seen the top subcategories here. We have seen shoes, we have seen dresses, men's clothes, trousers. These are all the sales by subcategories. So, for example, you now want to see the breakdown for each product in each subcategory. So, what we are going to do is you're going to add the product name. We're going to add the product name to our we need to add the product name to our y-axis. We'll be adding the product name to our y-axis, and then we can always view through each of the products, each of the product subcategories. When you turn on drill down, so when you suppose you want to see the breakdown by subcategories of shoes, you want to see the breakdown of shoes, of products in the shoes category. You want to see the top products in the shoes category. You just click on shoes, and then you're going to see the breakdown. So this is for shoes. You can see always your bib over the knee high boot has the most sales in the current week. So as usual, we're going to add the number of quantities sold per truth tip to provide more context. We're going to add the number of orders. We're going to add the number of orders. We're just going to name this quantity sold. I'm going to rename this number of orders. So here we can see that for these products that we have 2.74 million sales, 2.7 million sales, sold, 2.7 million in sales. We made 2.7 million in sales for shoes always your babe over the knee high boots. So we made 2.7 million in sales for these boots, and the total quantity sold for these boots, so over 50 of these boots were sold to give us 2.7 million of this, and it was just from 8 orders. So 8 orders, a total number of 50 of these boots sold generated a revenue of a total sales of 2.7 million for the previous week. So if you want to drill up back again, you can always peel back to you click on this drill up, and then you have the view again. So if you want to see for dresses, you can also click on dresses, and then you're going to see all of this. So as usual, I'm going to rename the title. I'm going to rename this to sales by product subcategories product. And the last thing we want to do, so we have just two more things to do for this report, and that is we're going to be adding navigation buttons. So you click on insert, you come to buttons, and then you click on navigator, apply page, add page navigator. So it's going to add navigation buttons for your user. So we add navigation button, and then you format the navigation button as you like. You format the navigation button as you like. But however, I'm just going to go ahead to copy this and paste it. And then here, I'm just going to paste it as well. One last thing we're going to do on this dashboard before we go is we're going to add a bit of functionality. We're going to improve the user experience for this dashboard a bit, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So on this report here, you can see this small card that is showing the dates. We are going to add this functionality to this report to let the user know that this is the period in which they are viewing this report from. So we can see that this report is from the period of September 25th, 2023 to 1st of October 2023. So this is dynamic, and whenever the report gets updated, the date also gets updated. I'm going to show you how to do this, and the reason we are actually adding this to the report is so that at any point when the user is looking at this report, the user can always see that this is the date, and it also kind of like add as a flag. So, for example, if for any reason this report did not get refreshed or it did not get updated, the user can always see that okay, this report has not been updated. It's still an old report, and then we can troubleshoot whatever happened that made the refresh to fail or why the report is not getting updated. So I'm going to show you how to do this quickly. So go back to our report, and then we're going to create a measure. We're going to create this measure and we're going to call it date range. So what this date range is doing is we're going to be adding a variable called the minimum date and another variable called the maximum date. What this calculation is doing, this function is doing is we are calculating the minimum date from our date table, and that is what this main function is doing. Give me the minimum date in my date table, comma, and filter down to the latest week. So you remember the is latest week column which we created at the beginning earlier when we initially started creating this report. So this is latest week to serve as a flag to indicate whether we are currently viewing the current week. So what this is saying is that calculate the minimum date for the current week, and then that is passed for. We don't want the minimum date for all of the data in our reports. We only want the minimum date for the current week. So passing that to the minimum variable, and we're also doing the same for the maximum date also. Max date, calculate the maximum date. So what do we want to return? You have to return a value. Whenever you are using variable in your DAX measure, you have to always return a value. So we want to return this, and I'm going to explain this. So we are concatenating this is a text, add date, then semicolon, and also we want to format. So this is going to return a value, and once it's formatted in date, month, and year. So the date, the first three letter of the month, and then the year, and then we are adding an arrow and format. You format the maximum date to also return DDMMMYYY, and then we create the measure. So to now add the measure to our dashboard or to our report, we're just going to add the regular card visual, and then we're going to click on date range. When you click on date range, you have it like this, and we're just going to go ahead and just format it. We turn off the label, call out value, we increase this, we want to edit this, turn off background color so that it can blend really well into the background. So we're going to edit this, make this white, and that is all. And that is all. So we have added it to this visual. So we can just go ahead, copy this card, copy the card, and we're just going to paste it across the other dashboards, the other reports pages. So we have this on all three pages of the reports. So in the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to publish your reports to Power BI service and also scheduling your reports to automatically refresh in Power BI service.